and I will be doing British Pantomime for you guys today. So first, let's get into some inspirations and a little bit of the history behind British Pantomime. It is heavily modeled after early masquerade and the Elizabethan and Stuart days, like very elaborate dresses, elaborate masks, elaborate costumes. They really pulled from that. They were performed in the 1400s for, the Queen and grand halls, and when British Pantomime was coming about, they pulled a lot of inspiration for that. But in the 17th century, those masquerades just kind of turned into like parties and excuses to like dress up with your friends and get all pretty, but it was less of a performance aspect. And then obviously, Commedia dell'arte is the inspiration for everything. And they pulled a lot from it, and especially from Italy. They kind of traveled all through Europe, and when they hit Britain, there was kind of this really big language barrier because the British people wanted to perform it, but they didn't speak Italian, and the Italian people didn't speak English, so they kind of just mimed a lot of it. And that's kind of where like pantomime first comes in. Pantomime literally translates to all kinds of mime. Obviously, as we get more to the modern day, pantomime has a lot of speaking, a lot of singing, but in the earliest days, there was kind of some miming to kind of make up for that language barrier. It's traditionally performed during Christmas, and it traditionally has a lot of role reversal. And a lot of this evolved from the Tudor Feast of Fools, which was presided over by the Lord of Misrule. These were like very unruly events, lots of drinking, revelry, sexual innuendos, role reversal, very just like a lot. And I also wanted to give a brief history about like what was kind of going on during this time. A lot, basically. World wars, going between reigns, just a lot of crazy stuff. And these performances were so beautiful and whimsical. They were like, you're too happy in wartime. So it's only allowed to be performed during Christmas, and they still carry that tradition. But at the time, it was because they didn't want people to be that happy during like wartime. They were like, okay, you can be happy during the holidays, but right now we gotta focus on the war. And then there we go. These are some pictures of some British Pantomime performances because I really want to accentuate to you guys that like, this is silly, this is Commedia dell'arte, this is over the top, hilarious, big costumes. I mean, he's got flower pots for, and it's just like, it's so over the top, it's meant to be absolutely ridiculous, absolutely funny, everything. And then some staples in British Pantomime that make it, British Pantomime, because you hear me saying, oh, it's influenced by this, influenced with that, but what is it? So basically, it is common fairy tales, usually like things like Jack and the Beanstalk, Cinderella, Snow White. Snow White was on that last slide in the bottom corner, if you see her. It combines song, dance, comedy. It's usually the length of about a Broadway musical and broken up similarly to a Broadway musical, but it's much more over the top. It takes place during Christmas time. It's a bit of a holiday event. There's a lot of role reversal, so even back from the start, they had this principal boy who was always played by a woman, even back when that was a little controversial. But guess what it did? It brought in the ticket sales. And there's also a huge emphasis on audience interaction, which is what makes British Pantomime so special. When the villain appears, the audience is encouraged to boo him off the stage and kind of do that. They're encouraged to argue with the dame. She'll be like, yes I am, and the audience will be like, no you aren't, or like, no you can't. And they just like argue back and forth, and if the principal boy is on there and the villain appears in the back, they're all going, he's behind you, look out! And that's super fun for children, obviously, super fun, just makes it super, fun. And then super elaborate costumes and sets like you saw before. 3 common characters I want to touch on in British Pantomime is the principal boy, often played by a woman, and if you'll notice, her legs are on display. This is a big ticket seller because back in the Elizabethan days, women always wore big skirts, and men did not know what women's legs looked like. So they would come to these performances to, even though she was dressed like a man, they would be like, wow, that's what legs look like. And so that would bring in lots of ticket sales. We have the dame, who is traditionally played by an older man, not just because male actors were doing everything, but because it's absolutely hilarious. It's reminiscent of like the drag shows, if you've ever been to like lots of drag shows. It's kind of similar to that in the performances. And then we have the baddie. That's actually what it's called on multiple websites, the baddie. It's the villain character that the audience boos, the audience interacts with. And again, if you can see their costumes, absolutely ridiculous. It's supposed to be like super funny. And that's when we get into some of these conventions. Obviously, audience interaction, huge piece, huge convention to it. And then slapstick comedy, which you might see is in red, which is my chosen convention. Song and dance are a huge piece of it, and then just like buffoonery. It's like definitely made to be super engaging, super funny. There's in-jokes, there's mild innuendos, if you know what I mean. And obviously cross-dressing is a big one. So for my performance, my chosen convention is slapstick comedy. I'm gonna really focus on like over-exaggeration, falling. I won't be doing fighting or pieing. Personally, I just don't wish that on myself. Pie throwing is a huge piece of British Pantomime as well, especially in the slapstick comedy. There are these like twisted sisters that usually get pied in the performance. Sometimes the audience gets to pie them, which is fun. And then misuse of props is also big, not only in British Pantomime, but in slapstick comedy itself. And then obviously I will be trying my best to do a little bit of cross-dressing in my performance. I'm limited, but you're probably wondering why the snazzy button down was on for that. And I've got a little hat. I'm gonna look more like a middle school boy than a Elizabethan boy, but I'll do my best. I'm obviously gonna have that slapstick focus. I'm gonna try to do a little audience interaction, but it might be more talking at you since I've made myself a little solo piece. And then obviously there's gonna be some innuendos, some comedy. And then here's my little backdrop for my performance. Get the hat on for you. All right. Oh, hello there. I haven't seen you around the village before. What is a dame like you doing out here? I have something for you, beautiful. You know, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, except, well, actually, that's a lie. I love to do that, you know, make things a lot easier. Anyway, I was looking at time. I think my mommy wants me home for supper. Anyway, let's play stop. Obviously, I want to give a little credit where credit's due. That line, the I don't want to blow my own trumpet line, is actually performed by Gillian Clary in British Pantomime, Jack and the Beanstalk, that was performed in the Palladium Theatre. And the song I played, if you recognized it, was Careless Whisper by George Michael. Little, fun. And then, obviously, I kind of have a lot more to learn than most as an actor when it comes to doing these research presentations, because I'm just a little less experienced as you guys. So one thing that I really liked learning about as an actor was how to incorporate comedy into performance. And I feel like maybe it's not underlooked, but it was underlooked by me about like how important comedy is in performance. Like, not only just to get audience engagement, audience interaction, but it really like boosts performance pieces, and it's such a like central concept in British Pantomime. So I really like learning about that and learning how to utilize it in a piece of my own. And then obviously, to better my understanding of theater as a whole, I really liked learning about how British Pantomime uses slapstick to really better their performances. It's utilized to get audience interaction, but also audience engagement. You know, British Pantomime is so good at getting audience engagement, getting those ticket sales with, women's legs or the beautiful costumes or doing drag bits, and it's all just like so hilarious, so over the top, so much more than you would ever expect to see. And then I got to watch so many clips of British Pantomime. I guess it's so funny. I really suggest watching it, even just like the 5-minute bits that are on YouTube. They're so funny. Like I would love to go see one. I don't know if they have as many in Portland. I know that they do exist in America and all around the world. They are not just in Britain. But yeah, I really, really like British Pantomime. I had never heard of it before or looked at it before, so it was super fun. And then here are my works cited.